am turning on our record now. So this session is being recorded and you will have access to this recording at a later time, as well as the entire rest of the series. If you have questions for our speaker, you can use the chat feature. You can message the host, myself. Sorry, in that commotion, I haven't introduced myself. My name is Leah Watkins. I am a member of the Collaborative Network to End Exploitation, who is hosting this webinar series. We do have captions available. So at the bottom of your screen where you have the ribbon there should be an option for closed captions that you can click on to read those. Do No Harm is a 6-part webinar series. We are looking at some of the ways that anti-human trafficking work has caused harm to some of the groups that are impacted by our work, including trafficked persons themselves. So today we are focusing on the sex worker community and why anti-human trafficking work is harmful to that community. These are the other webinars that you, if you haven't registered yet, you are welcome to attend. It's the same Zoom link. We'd love to have you there to join us for this whole series to really deepen our understanding of how some of the practices that we might be engaging in are harmful. That being said, assumptions that we have of people who are participating in this webinar series. We are assuming that you are already somewhat familiar with the topic of human trafficking and what anti-human trafficking work entails. So we're not starting with the basics, human trafficking 101. We're just going back to basics in as much as it relates to the intersection of oppression with marginalized groups. We are assuming that you are here with good intentions. You want to learn more. We're really excited and happy that you chose to take the time out of your day to join us. And we are assuming that you understand that discomfort is a part of growth. So there may be some things that you hear today that challenge you and make you feel uncomfortable, that this is part of the process, this is part of the learning. We acknowledge that sex work is probably the most divisive issue in the anti-human trafficking world. For those of you who joined us last week in our anti-oppression and human trafficking webinar, Dr. Sue Wilson gave us 3 examples of people who had been involved in sex work. They represented a whole spectrum of experiences, from strength and empowerment through sex work to sex work by manipulation and coercion. She implored us to hold up each of these experiences as valid. For whatever reason they are working, be it choice, circumstance, or coercion, engaging in sex work does not make sex workers any less deserving of dignity, safety, or life. When sex workers tell us that some anti-human trafficking legislation is leading to increased violence, detention, and death, we must listen. Whatever your personal moral feelings are about sex work, our first duty is to those who are oppressed, those who are marginalized, and those who are targeted. We're very grateful to have Elaine as a speaker today. She will be pointing out ways that anti-human trafficking work harms sex workers, especially migrant sex workers, perpetuating cycles of targeting, increased policing, and racial profiling and violence that enable human trafficking to take place. You've registered for this webinar because you want to learn about this issue from the perspective of sex workers. Thank you. Some of what Elaine says may make you uncomfortable. If that's so, I challenge you to sit with that discomfort, unpack a bit of where that comes from, and do more research about the issues Elaine raises. We are very grateful you've chosen to attend this workshop to hear this important perspective and to learn more. Our speaker today is Elaine Lam. She is a PhD candidate and the 2019 recipient of the Constance E. Hamilton Award for Women's Equality. She is an activist, community organizer, educator, and human rights defender. She has devoted herself to protecting the rights of and empowering marginalized communities. particularly sex workers, migrants, and precarious workers. She is the founder of Butterfly, Asian and Migrant Sex Workers Support Network, and has used diverse and innovative approaches to advocate social justice for migrant sex workers, like leadership building and community mobilization. She has made transformative contributions to the migrant sex workers movement in Toronto by being a unique and compelling player in sex worker rights, migrant justice, labor rights, and in gender justice circles. We are thrilled to have you here. We're thrilled to have Elaine here. Elaine, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have a chance to see all of you, and thank you for inviting me to share today. And I really appreciate that this is a series of anti-trafficking training and workshop on do no harm, because we have witnessed so much harm has caused by the anti-trafficking work. I think last 5 years I have organized over like 100 workshops and talks to talk about this issue. So I really don't know how to do and really can make the change and stop all this harm. But I think today we have chance to connect with each other. We have chance to communicate. So, and I hope that, as Lee just said, some of the idea that may be different from what you have now. And I really hope that you will take off your glasses and really have chance to listen to how the anti-trafficking work actually harm the sex worker. And so, and I'm so honored and lucky to have chance to learn all the knowledge from the community by the community member. And so that, thank you. So, and I would like to share my PowerPoint. And so I think what I want to start with is many of you may also hear about the recent killing for the in Orlando of the Asian worker, particularly 6 Asian women in massage parlor. So this is the tragedy we don't want to see. When we hear that, we are feeling so sad and heartbroken. But this is just not the single incident. This is what we hear, what the community is facing every day. So the murder is not only in US. Every year, the workers, particularly Asian workers in massage parlor, in sex industry is being murdered, including Toronto, Mississauga, Hamilton, and Scarborough. So, and I think you guys may remember very well that the murderer have said that why he killed the woman is because he wanted to eliminate the temptation for him. And when he said that, I really found this is no different when I keep hearing the anti-trafficking organization, particularly those have moralistic agenda, those seeing sex work as exploitation. They always say eliminate all forms of exploitation, but we know very well what they're talking about is not sexual exploitation. What they talk about actually is sex work and pornography. You see, this guy murdered a woman because he feels that he has the power to determine the life of other people, that he can have the power kill someone that he don't like. This is no different with many anti-trafficking organizations, particularly those anti-sex worker organizations that keep advocating killing the sex industry. By killing the sex industry, the sex worker, particularly migrant, also harmed and killed by them. So that's why we really need to recognize that the woman being murdered in massage parlor and sex industry is because of the racism, sexism, and also the homophobia. The people also being killed because of the policing and criminalization. So, and I really, really hope that that will not happen anymore. But that's why we need you to come together, really learn about how the anti-trafficking work actually is harmful for the worker, their family, and the society. So, and I will put this message and hope you all remember well. Your moral agenda is not more important than our lives, because we see so many anti-trafficking work is come from this position that seeing sex work is violence, seeing sex work is exploitation, but underneath is thinking sex work is something bad, sinful. But I think no matter how you see sex and sex work, you don't have right to take away the life of other people. You don't have right, and you should not have that power to make people suffer because of your moral agenda. And when we talk about moral agenda, I think the most important moral agenda is not your moralistic view of sex or sex work. It's more important is how we see the life, how we value the life of people. And so that when we say do no harm, we really need to know about what harm we have caused. And we have so many evidence collected from the community and so much story from the worker keep telling how they are being harmed by policing, by criminalization, by the stigma and hate and discrimination created by the anti-trafficking moral panic. We really hope you will help us to stop it. So I would like to share the statement. So this is the statement of Butterfly member shared in the Anti-Asian Racism on Sunday. I hope you take some time to read that.
Elaine, actually, we're seeing your presenter's view of your slides.
Oh, okay.
So we can see like the next slide, and it's not taking up as much of the screen.
Okay, so that is it. I don't know what is the best. Okay, maybe this one.
Let's see.
Is it better now? This one? No.
No.
Okay. Maybe I stop it and share again so to see is it working?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Okay.
Someone is suggesting you do the slideshow option.
Oh, sorry. Is it this one?
Just taking a minute to connect. No, I'm still seeing. Oh yeah, if you look at the top, there's end show tips, swap displays, and then use slideshow. Try clicking
Okay.
use.
Okay.
Just want to make sure that we can see your slides.
Okay, thank you. Can you see anything?
Yeah. I can only see the bottom half of the slide. Oh, there we go. There. Yes.
Okay.
That works
great.
for me. I hope it's working for others too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Other people are saying it's good now as well. Perfect.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So thank you. So yes, I just want to go back the message. So like what our Butterfly members said that is really really hope that you recognize due to racism and lack of support of the government, we need to feed ourselves by our hands. And a lot of our sisters have experienced robbery before. Some of them even experienced sexual harassment and violence. In 2019, sister in Toronto was murdered in a massage parlor. So calling police doesn't work for us. The police and law enforcement officer mistreat us, conflate our work with human trafficking, and affect our work. We can only rely on ourselves, keep ourselves safe and our sisters safe. Our sisters who work in massage parlor and the sex industry are targeted, and racism, sexism, and homophobia harm our sisters. So, and I think this is what I try to start with the presentation today, is because many of the harm of the anti-trafficking work is affecting the worker and particularly their safety. And when many anti-trafficking organizations that they are concerned about the rights, concerned about the experience of violence of the worker, but actually the anti-trafficking work actually make the worker be more dangerous. So, and I think as Liz said, that I also want to add some principles so that we really hope that through this training, we can start from the position to respect the agency of all sex workers. And so even someone in difficult situation or they have experienced violence and recognize the systematic oppression and barrier of the migrant sex worker face and do not impose your own value, including moral, cultural, like religion value. So, and we, of course, we need to critical reflect on that to see how it's inform our practice. But I think how you should not impose your value on other people and recognize your own value practice. And so that may, or your organization policy that can harm migrant and sex workers. So I always like to start with the story first. So like this is the voices from the worker, just like other work. I have to do whatever I have to do. I don't like this job very much at the beginning, but like same as everyone, I do it for money. So at the beginning it's hard, but now it's getting better. So I'm the sex worker who migrate across border to target the wealthier market. I'm a sex worker because I'm good at work with people and people always underestimate the skill required in this field. I find this work is more fulfilling than many other jobs. So I hope that this is really challenge our idea about like seeing sex work is something, balancing sex work as something is equal to exploitation. And people may have bad experience, but doesn't mean all the people have bad days every day, right? So, and I would like you to share a little bit more. So like, from the chat, can you share, can you type like who are benefit from the anti-trafficking work? Because I think when we talk about we need to end the violence of the anti-trafficking work, we need to stop the harm of anti-trafficking work, and this is important. We need to know who are actually benefit from this anti-trafficking work. So we need to know who is benefit from this anti-trafficking work. Anyone want to type anything? It seems quite quiet. Like, anyone want to share? Okay, maybe let me to share. Okay. Okay, who will benefit? Of course, it's the white saver. Yes, I see the saver, right? Like, and so people who have experienced trafficking, those who benefit from oppressive power, people who have lost their agency and freedom to choose this work, survival of exploitation. So as I said that we really want to look at the systematic analysis that how the who are really benefit from the anti-trafficking work. So one is very clear is the government, is the politician, because they can get so much government support. They can get so much political token by bringing the anti-trafficking campaign, because this is the campaign no one will criticize and they can get a lot of political power for that. So, and the other piece is the law enforcement. The law enforcement, of course, they get a lot of power. And when we have so much training on like defund police, and we have so many advocacy work and so many racialized people, they keep saying how they harm by policing. And the movement is asking to decrease the police power, defund police, but they are getting huge resources and power and recognition by doing anti-trafficking work. So, and in the other big piece is the NGO social worker in the anti-sex worker organization, religion, moralistic organization. And I think we need to know it very, very well, and many of us actually is benefit from the oppression people are facing. How people get the salary is based on the work that is benefit from the oppression people are facing. So, and I see some of the people, they also write the people that they being trafficked, they also benefit from the anti-trafficking work. But we need to have the critical lens to know about like analysis whole anti-trafficking movement. What is the purpose of the anti-trafficking movement? So if there is not the funding go to anti-trafficking work, if the funding go to support the youth work, support the violence against women work, many people is still able to benefit, and people may not need to feel that they are forced to identify a traffic victim in order to access like different kind of service and support. And for sex worker and many marginalized community, actually the trafficking work is the violence against sex worker. The sex worker, majority of sex worker is not benefit from that, and not the traffic victim. Many traffic victim is not benefit from that, particularly now the anti-trafficking work, the approach is using policing, is using surveillance, and a lot of work actually take away the people agency. So, and I would like to go to the next slide. So what are the harms caused by the anti-trafficking work? So any of you would like to share some of your thoughts? What may be the harm caused by the anti-trafficking work? Yeah, perpetrate, colonization, always have the critical lens, rescue action by police, surveillance, criminalization of sex work, increasing risks and safety. Yes, deportation, amazing. Yes, yes, a lot of harm done by anti-trafficking, race supremacy, deportation. Yeah, thank you. So this is not the complete list, but this is the harms that what we see is have imposed on the sex worker, particularly is perpetrate the violence. So because when sex work is being surveillance and people work in massage parlor is being criminalized, so they are facing a lot of violence that, for example, assault, murder. Why? Is because they are being targeted. The people know that they are not able to seek support. They are not able to support themselves. Many of their protective measures, for example, when they work together or when they have some people to support them, to screen the client for them, all is being criminalized. And that make the people be more and more dangerous. And we also need to know the major source of violence faced by the sex worker is actually from the law enforcement. Giving the law enforcement more power does not help the sex worker to be more safe. And the policing just increase the problem and safety of the worker. So, and the other piece is the surveillance, arrest, detain, and deportation, right? So because many anti-trafficking work is asking for more law enforcement, asking for more criminalization. So in Canada, I see someone, people talk about the BUC 36. The BUC 36 is like, if you know that actually the sex worker group in 2012-13, they have successful to challenge that the sex worker law is make the sex work unsafe because they cannot work with each other. But the conservative government is with the influence by many anti-sex work, anti-trafficking organizations that they have passed the BUC 36, including criminalize the client, criminalize the third party, and then they said that the purpose is reduce the demand and protect the exploitation. But the real purpose is killing the sex industry. When you eliminate the demand, that how the sex worker can work, right? So this is the assumption I would go to talk more about, like where it's come from. And so I think some of you may already do a lot of work, and some people even is advocate for the end demand model. And from sex worker everywhere telling you that it just makes sex worker be more and more dangerous. And other impact is shut down the massage parlor, particularly the Asian massage parlor. Many people lost the job. For example, in 2019, City of Toronto, again with the anti-trafficking organization advocacy, like 2,000 workers almost lost the job. And in York region, almost half of the business is being shut down. So that killing the sex industry even is not mentioned in the preamble, but because of the conflation of sex work and sexual exploitation, so that the assumption all the sex workers are being exploited, all the third party is being exploited, so that the conflation is keep going. So that's why the enforcement of the Bill C-36 we see is affected all the sex workers, even sex workers work together. They are being charged, they're being arrested and detained and deported. And of course, the massage parlor is being seen as associates of sex work. So they are also having the criminal investigation, and also that also are being shut down using the bylaw. And take away the work of the worker, do not make people feel empowered. Actually, it's increase the vulnerability of the worker. So there is create a lot of barrier of support and service, and increase the discrimination, and make the workers do not have the labor protection. So, and I think that I see a lot of people from the text that is saying that how the law actually can protect the woman, and how the worker actually is having the immunity. But what we experience from the see the experience from the community is totally different. I will share a little bit more later. So, and what is human trafficking? When we talk about human trafficking, we feel we know about human trafficking, what is human trafficking. But this term is so broadly defined that we really make us very difficult to look at what actually happened. So when we talk about human trafficking, are we talk about the physical or sexual violence? Are we talk about kidnapping the people, or you talk about the labor rights issue, the people is being exploited at the workplace? Do we talk about domestic violence, abusive relationship? Do we talk about the people lack of support or resources? Or we talk about people experience of migration? Or is it the power relationship between the people have intimate relationship? Or this is the work relationship? And I think anti-trafficking work is so powerful because they make us feel that we know what this talk about, particularly when we see all the image on the media. Is like normally it's like people being locked up, and the hand being tied up. But then what we see that the enforcement is actually not addressing that. Is mostly is target the people do sex work. So and I think before we go to see more harm of the anti-trafficking work, we may see what this model come from. And I think some of you is already very, very familiar of that. So this is the debate about sex work, is the radical feminists. I don't call them feminists because many of them is actually love police more than the woman. They believe in police power than the woman agency. So instead of like empowering the woman that they can advocate for themselves, increasing their bargaining power, many of this group is actually advocating more criminalization, more policing. So the anti-sex worker group, they see sex work as a kind of exploitation, intrinsic violence against women, and is equal to rape. And this assumption is come from that sex is something should not be sold. So when people in the sex industry, no one is voluntary to do sex work, and all the people are victim and slavery. And the agency become not relevant, so that because the assumption is no one will consent to do sex work. So, and for sex worker organization, we found this is very, very problematic, because it do not look at the complexity of the people's life and also neglect the agency of the people. And this victim stigma particularly powerful to impose to Indigenous, Asian, particularly migrant sex worker, and youth, because they are being seen as someone that do not have power, do not have capacity to know what they are doing. And so that's why when I working with migrant sex worker, is always being asked, when the people who are so victimized, they don't know they are the victim, what you can do But this has come from the assumption that you know the other people's life better than themselves. And the other big piece is talk about the harm of anti-trafficking work is this anti-sex worker organization, they always focus on the psychological harm and how sex work, like even pornography, reinforce the gender inequality. And so that they also see that this is as the male demand and women do not impossible to consent. So this is objectification of women. So that is the solution. What is the solution? Is exiting program so that like all the people need to exit sex industry. And for us, this is very, very balanced. If you are from social service organization, social work, you know that even you are the service provider, you have the power, you know that the self-determination is so important. But the exiting program itself is predetermined. Your goal is exiting. It is not uncommon that you hear many programs, they say that I respect, I understand, I accept sex worker, or I agree with the people consensual to do sex work. But if they do sex work, they need to leave our shelter. If they do sex work, they cannot access our program. So this is a kind of violence. It's no different with the conversion program, like how we treat the people, gay people, that we have the assumption they're doing wrong thing. This is something should not be happen. And then exiting them, that they are the people need to be exit. And the proposal of the law is criminalization of clients and the end demand model, just like some of you have mentioned, because they assume all the men is the perpetrator, abuse the woman. And then they also criminalize the third party because they assume all the third party is someone exploiting the worker. And so that no matter what is the circumstances, they don't care. And all the kind is illegal. So, and they also promote the rescue model from law enforcement so that the police become the hero, they have the power to rescue the people. And I think what we want to talk about the end demand model is so problematic because when you work with sex worker closely, you know, client is sometimes very important social support for the worker. And instead of give more power and resources of the worker, criminalized client just put sex work more underground. They are more difficult to negotiate with the client and make the sex worker be more dangerous. And the criminalization of client. So I think violence happen everywhere. This is similar to the people may experience domestic violence. So that even people experience domestic violence at home doesn't mean we need to criminalize all the husband. And many people know that marriage system have a lot of gender inequality. We do not say we need to criminalize marriage because they are being seen as morally good, right? So that's why we think this is the assumption. If there is something happen bad in the sex industry that we need to criminalize it, that is so problematic. And assuming all the client is exploiting the woman is also come from the very strong moral agenda that people should not buy the sex, right? So that how you can have power to control other people. So that is the moralistic idea. Again, like we see sex work as sin, we say sex work is something bad, should not be happen. And so I would like to bring the pro-sex worker rights perspective. So this sees sex work as labor, legitimate emotion labor. So we really see sex work as free agent. I will explain a little bit more. The free agent, like everyone in the world, we are not 100% free in the sense that we are facing different kind of social system oppression. But no matter this is the best option or the only option, this is still the active option of the worker. So we've addressed what is facing by the sex worker is the systematic oppression, including racism, sexism, classism, and the main violence actually is come from the criminalization of sex work and also the discrimination of sex work. And the assumption is people should have the rights of the body, no matter they choose to sell it or not, right? So why the people have sex is no problem, but when sending them the receiving the money is become the problem, right? So, and I think that is something we need to be careful, and then we also need to look at, right, what is behind. And so also see sex work, instead of seeing this is objectification, is also look at how sex and how the people from sex work, they can liberating and access the power, you know, to challenge that oppression. And so, for example, many of our members, they may be oppressed in family system, they may exploit in the workplace, in factory or restaurant, but they work in massage parlor or work in sex industry. Actually, they have better income, they have better working hour, and then they have like even can gain a lot of connection with the society. Actually, make them feel like more fulfilling. The life is more fulfilling. So, and then the other piece is what we need to address is not exiting them, is respect the agency and decision of people. What we need to address is the racism, poverty, and working condition, so that make the people be vulnerable. So instead of taking the option, as I said, that many people that use sex work as the resistance, so instead of we have the power to make the decision for other people to take away the option, that we should support the people, you know, to address the racism, poverty. And the solution that what sex workers are suggesting for the full decriminalization of sex work, including client and third party, because they are the important partner in the community and supporting sex worker. And so, and also need to stop the police abuse and racial profiling, because the police is given a lot of power, you know, to harm the worker. So this is the different perspective, and this is the perspective also affects a lot of approach. So that's why when we see the anti-trafficking work, we may also need to critically to understand whether the real purpose is ending sex work or ending sexual exploitation. And many people said that, is this sex worker organization is supporting trafficking? So of course, like by working with the community, we care everything. We care about the worker, right? We care about the rights of the worker. We care about the working condition. But instead of using the rescue model, instead of using criminalization, that how the community actually can work together to advocate and improve their working condition and resist like all kind of oppression and experience of violence. So as I said that, so for Butterfly and also many of our work, so that we found that like to respect the decision-making process of the worker is very, very important. And for you, that may be the oppression, but for many workers, that may be the resistance, so that we need to know how the class, racial identity, gender, and immigration status affect the people power, support and working condition, and how to make people be vulnerable. And some workers want to do it because of the economic advancement, self-actualization, pursue their dream, and they may be the only option or the best option. So that this is the code from the worker. I can rely on myself. I have a job. I can take care of my family. I'm blessing. I don't feel embarrassed about my life. And some people said that, so how about some people, they don't want to do sex work. They feel that they have to do sex work, or there is circumstances they need to do something. And for us, it's no different with other work. We think that the people should not be forced to work in restaurant. They should not be forced to like work in factory. Same as the people should not be forced to work in sex industry. But when the people make the decision, no matter what circumstances, that we should respect it, and then we should support the people that they can have the good condition and they can support, assess the rights in their work. So that we should not like take away their option, because this is important resistance for many, many workers. So this is the myth about migrant sex worker, is like that how this myth actually make the sex worker marginalized and impose the oppression. And the assumption of sex work is equal to sexual exploitation, sex worker is traffic victim, and the assumption particularly youth indigenous and migrant sex workers, they are brainwashed, they are ignorant, they are being lured in sex industry, they cannot help themselves. So that's why the police and social worker is the hero that they need to be identified, because they are so vulnerable, they don't know how to identify themselves. But from our work with community, this actually do not reflect the reality of the community. So people may have different challenge, and they may have different life struggle, similar to the people experience domestic violence, that they may be caught up in the situation, but we will not send the police to lock every door to ask, are you being trafficked, right? We will not call the bus driver to identify who looks sad and then arrest the people, or like send the people to the police, or force the people to see social worker. When we do not address this for domestic violence, people experience domestic violence, why we do this against the sex worker? So, and the anti-trafficking, human trafficking work is promoting the criminalization of sex work. Even some people say that sex worker is having the immunity, but it's not true, because when we look at the sex worker in our community, that they are being arrested, detained, and deported. So the policing and racial profiling is being imposed under the name of protection. So many of this work actually is anti-sex work, anti-migration, racist, sexist, and moralistic agenda. And someone said that actually only 15% of sex work to do it voluntary, and most people is being forced. And we also need to how the statistic always collect is so biased, and I am welcome you come to have the dialogue with our community. We would like to tell you about that. So if you want to ask like any people in the cleaning industry, any people want to do cleaning work, I think 99% of the people tell you they don't want to wash the toilet, but doesn't mean we need to criminalize the people to wash the toilet. We need to know why people tell you they don't want this to work. So, and I think this is very, very important that we not keep putting our assumption. You may not think doing sex work is a good option, but doesn't mean that you should not listen to other people. So, and I hope that like, you will remove your moralistic agenda that respect the sex worker, respect the sex worker agency. And so, and because the other parts I really want to say now is not only sex work is being criminalized, but also massage parlor, particularly run by Asian, is being targeted by the human trafficking campaign. So they are being keep harming by the human trafficking work, and many massage parlors actually being shut down. So, and this is how the anti-trafficking policy and initiative harm the sex worker, including conflating sex work and trafficking, create moral panic, increase the stigma, like criminalization of sex work, third party and migration and client, increase the racial profiling and policing against the sex worker, and increase the surveillance, not only by the police, the policing is also by the service provider, Uber driver, and hotel. So that's all is make the worker be more dangerous, make the people be more vulnerable. So, and so this is how the funding allocate, and then you see who get the funding, right? So like all this funding go to many anti-trafficking organizations, but we also see many anti-trafficking organizations is not only aiming as anti-trafficking, but they are aiming at ending sex work. So that the conflation of sex work and human trafficking actually is the moralistic agenda. So the purpose is ending sex work, not ending human trafficking, that make many massage parlors being shut down and have the rape in hotel and apartments, so that make the people be more vulnerable to the violence and also be more and more dangerous. So this is the result of advocacy of the anti-trafficking group. So Defend Dignity have written to the City of Toronto. Toronto should not license any business selling sexual service and shut down those illegal business. And what is the consequence? Actually make the City of Toronto almost make 2,000 Asian workers lost their job in 2019. And Canadian Women Foundation also in 2012-13 is advocating more policing and ending this industry. So with that, I will also show that how the policing and abuse of the law enforcement keep increase. When you say you care about the rights and safety of the worker, that is something you really need to know that the harm you cause, because you are forcing the people to exit, you are shutting down the business. And Canadian Center to End Human Trafficking, so that they are doing advocacy in 2019, make many workers actually lost their license and cannot work anymore. So that this is very clear that, like, for example, Defend Dignity, they are not ending the sex work, they're not ending the sexual exploitation, they're ending sex work because they see sex work as a kind of sexual exploitation. So they even produced a manual to advocate how to shut down the massage parlor. So even the US organization, Parlours, they have pulled down the document because they recognize the harm they cause with the migrant sex worker. So this is 300 workers went to City Hall tell you that I'm not traffic victim. I have right to work. I don't shut down my business. When so many workers tell you that I'm not traffic victim, but why you keep telling that they are the traffic victim? So this is very, very important. And so because of the time now is going to the Q&A section. So I would like to know, is it like any people have any question? So that you can put in the Q&A box. So maybe I can come back. Okay, yeah. Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, maybe I can stop sharing at this moment and then to see, is there any question?
Yeah, I'll just start us off while people are getting their questions in the chat box. Elaine, could you give us a story of someone that you've worked with who has been negatively affected by anti-human trafficking work?
Yes, so actually it's a lot. So for example, worker, she is have been working in Toronto for 5 years already. So she has established her business, and then so she have good connection. So because of the anti-trafficking work, so that like her workplace is being raided, and she's being arrested and she's being detained, and so that all her money is being taken away. And so that the RCMP have seized her money, and that $10,000 is being taken away. And at the end, she is being arrested and deported. So because she do not have documents. So that it's so common that we see the anti-trafficking rate is targeting the migrant and Asian, so that at the end is make the people get deported. So, and this is still continues happening. So, and a worker in Saskatchewan, when she was being found as traffic victim, her hand is being chained and her waist is being chained. At the beginning, she's being suspected as traffic victim. And then later on that that we found the organization trying to help her, the anti-trafficking organization willing to help her. But then after that, they found that this worker actually have other worker work with her, and then found that they are the organized crime ring. That the organization, social service organization, immediately think that they may be organized crime ring and reject to help them. And then so they are being detained for half year and then get deported. So actually, we have done a report. It's called Behind the Rescue. Actually, it's document how the workers being detained and deported. So.
Thank you, Elaine. I'm going to drop a link to Butterfly's website in the chat so people can find that and your other great resources there. We have a question, how can we continue to do anti-exploitation work while still being strong sex worker allies?
Yes, and I think that so being a sex worker allies is important to recognize sex work is work, and also be the allies that recognize how the criminalization of sex work, including client third party, makes sex worker be more dangerous and make them be more vulnerable. and against policing is also important thing. So instead of using the rescue by the law enforcement, is how to work together to improve the working condition. So we always say rights, not rescue, right? So for example, having access of labor rights, migrant rights, and the people do not need to identify as traffic victim in order to access different kind of social service that is like increasing the bargaining of power of people. So instead of asking people, forcing people exiting the sex industry, we may need to know what people actually, what problem people are actually facing. So are they facing exploitation in their workplace, so that need the labor law to intervene, or the people is facing the intimate violence, like so that we can know what exactly happened to address the issue. Yeah.
Thank you, Elaine. And we have a few questions here. People are asking for some clarity about sex workers being arrested. There is no charge in the criminal code for selling sexual services. So could you just clarify for folks how it is?
Yeah, because for migrant sex worker is so often, so that they have language barrier, they also do not have enough social resources, that many of them actually is work together, or they need someone to help them, right? So some sex worker maybe help other sex worker to take up the call, to make the arrangement of the days, or help each other to do advertisement. So we even have other worker, because there's so many robbery, they help them to their friends to transfer the money back home. But under the criminal code, all is related to the third party law, is like procuring, they're assisting other people to do sex work, help other people to do advertisement, so that benefit from the sex work, so that they also being charged themselves. So, and when they help each other. So, and the other big piece is because many migrant sex workers, because of the, again, is the discrimination of sex work, any people, even they have work permits, so including refugee, including international student, that if they have work permit, actually they can work in Canada, but they are not allowed to work in sex industry. If they work in sex industry, actually they will be kicked out. So this all is harmful policy, make people vulnerable, and make the people why they are being arrested and deported. And so that's why we see the anti-trafficking work is not only anti-sex work, it's often is racist and also anti-migrant. So and that is something. And actually Butterfly have training on the related to law, related to migrant sex workers, so that you can go to the website of Butterfly. Actually, you may find more resources and training. So we have training on the legal issue faced by the migrant sex worker. We also have the training on how to end the violence faced by the sex worker. So instead of like using the anti-trafficking lens only, so there is a lot of law and a lot of legal and illegal remedy actually can empower people and make people can be work safe, and they can work improve their and assess the support when they need help. So then we don't need to have the criminalization, we don't need to have that police power behind. And I think the other big piece, we really hope that you can have critical lens to look at, is the new Ontario Act is give extensive power to the law enforcement and police. So for example, now if the police need to access like information that they need the court order, but the new anti-trafficking law actually is giving, forcing the people use hotel need to provide the personal information, and the police can access those information with the warrant, right? So that's all this policing actually make people be more vulnerable. So actually we have a call for action. So in response to the murder of the worker, I know that some of you may feel very uncomfortable and you still think that law is good, you still think the sex work should be end. So I just want to say this is your value, this is your perspective, but we just want to let you know that the sex worker community is screaming and tried so hard to let you know, hope you can listen to know how the law is so harmful. And today actually is the sex worker organization launching the legal challenge because the law itself is violate the human rights of the sex worker and make the sex worker is more vulnerable. And the immunity of the sex worker of the law is the illusion, and that criminalize the client and sex worker do not, the third party do not make sex worker be more safe, you just make sex worker more dangerous. When you keep concerning the trafficking issue, but what you really care about, is it the safety, dignity of the worker, or is it your moral agenda? So that's really hope that you can have the critical lens, you know, to think about this issue. I know that not all the people will support our position, but I really hope that you will have the critical reflection of that. If you are really truly care about the livelihood of the woman, if you really respect the agency of the woman, if you really trust the woman more than police, that we really hope that you will look at our declaration. We need your support to sign the declaration and stop the harm. We don't want to see more sex workers being murdered. We don't want to see more people experience the violence from law enforcement. When you say the people being trafficked, they are having the very bad treatment, have to say when the people encounter with the law enforcement, they are being detained. They are being traumatized by that. They are being harmed by that. When you say that you advocate for the rights of the woman, why you can keep silence when you see that? And there is so many approach to address the people experience the violence or experience different vulnerability, but the policing always is not helpful. And we need to trust the woman. We need to build the social system and the resources that the people can seek help. We do not need to have the police and social worker come together, rescue the people and force the people to receive the service. If your service is good, if you can build a relationship with the community, of course, they will come to you. And then you don't need to use the state power to force them to come to you. So, and I think that is something, I think this is very challenging and difficult. So, but I think we will not stop fighting because this is the community we care. Even you see so many dead bodies in your place, you still continues your oppression. That is something we will continue to fight against. But we believe we will have a lot of allyship. We believe many of you is truly care about the safety of the worker, truly respect the agency of the worker, instead of like caring about your moral agenda and putting your assumption to other people. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Elaine. We are now at 5 minutes past 3. So there were still some other questions that folks had, but maybe they can reach out to you through the through your website, through the Butterfly Network.
Yes. So, and I can also send my email, so feel free to contact me, and then yes, you can contact us by the website. Yeah.
Great. There we go. So Elaine has just put her email address in the chat box. So I want to thank you so much, Elaine. Every time I speak to you, you help me realize something that I was overlooking, or an assumption that I was making that was wrong. I always go away from conversations with you with a lot to think about and unpack. And I really encourage everyone who participated today to go and check out your website, check out more resources. Elaine is, you know, very responsive when you email, although obviously there's a lot going on in her community, the community that she is serving right now. So thank you so much, Elaine, for your time and for your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you. And one more sentence. And I really, to be honest, I have so much fear and frustrated come to this platform, particularly seeing like so many texts in the textbook. But why I still want to see that? Because I really believe the change And thank you, you guys organized this, because you really recognize the harm caused to the sex worker and many community. And we know many of you also witness that. You know that. And we need you to voice out to support that. And I was so frustrated, but now I see so many messaging give me a lot of power. So that is something we need from the community. You may be silent and seeing a lot of things, but we really hope that you can speak out and let us know how we can work together and change it. We believe that that's need to change. We can see so many women movement, like a gay movement, and same as sex worker movement. We need the solidarity in order to bring the change. And sign our declaration and continues your great work, continues your critical lens and challenge the anti-trafficking work and make people have better lives. So
thank you. Okay. Thank you so much again. And thank you everybody who participated, who joined us in this conversation today. We look forward, we hope most of you will be coming back next week for our next session. Thanks and have a great week, everyone.